And my company's CloudAmp. I basically do apps for Salesforce, do lead integration and Google Analytics integration. And I would like, without further ado, I'm going to introduce Scott Hemmeter, who's the CEO and founder of Arrowpointe. So I want to thank Scott for sponsoring this event. I also want to thank Geekdom, which is a new Rackspace working space, for letting us do this every time. If any developers are looking for cheap desks, some cool stuff in the other room here. So Scott's going to demo Geopointe.
Turn off your cell phones.
All right. Well, hello, everybody. I'm Scott Hemmeter. I am founder of the company. The company's name is Arrowpointe. The product I'll be demonstrating today is Geopointe. It's our primary application. I've been running Arrowpointe for since about 2006. Starting off as more of a consultant, running it, doing independent. Kind of worked my way up to being an ISV, which is basically means you're offering products on the AppExchange for Salesforce. Did that by myself for a couple of years, and for the past couple of years I've started to grow the team, and we're up to about 6 people now, and we offer Geopointe, which is really the premier mapping solution for Salesforce on the AppExchange. So if you're looking at the AppExchange looking for products of this nature, you'll definitely notice Geopointe kind of stand out in terms of popularity and reviews, and we're just one of the more popular applications out there. And really the goal of Geopointe is to help the Salesforce user, whether you're a sales rep trying to understand things, or sales manager, maybe sales operations, marketing, whoever it might be, answer those questions that Salesforce reports really can't, which is pretty much the ones that start with where. Where are things happening? Where is my business? Salesforce reports are really good at the who, the what, the when, but answering the where is elusive. And Geopointe's really goal is to location enable your Salesforce database. And then we have a few different mechanisms for actually allowing you to make use of that data. So the general idea, just a few slides and then I'll get into mostly demonstration here. But it's really about, the starting point is turning your addresses that people are entering into Salesforce into latitude and longitude. So that's something that just happens with Geopointe automatically, allowing things to be put on a map. So there's a simple, simple one record on a map. But as you enable the application and tell the application about your Salesforce environment, what you want to map, you're using accounts or contacts, those traditional sales, service, marketing, cloud objects or opportunities, leads, or your own custom objects. Maybe it's your sales order history or some other custom location information you have. Geopointe can support all of that configuration, and you basically are then able to provide mechanisms for your end users, whoever they might be, to make sense out of that information. So a good example would be, this is one I ran just before this meeting a couple hours ago, just saying, who are the Geopointe customers within a mile of here? And so you can see the ones here on the screen, basically broken down by the year that they started using Geopointe. For someone that's in sales, that's maybe, I traveled here from Southern California, but maybe I'm up here and I want to see, maybe visit some of these customers or see what prospects I have in the area. It's the type of thing that Geopointe allows for. On the right-hand side, you can see it's where you can customize it. So you can customize fields that would appear. So it's not just show me the address, but maybe you have a special field called, rating. Is this a hot customer, a warm customer, or whatever that case may be. It ties it into your configuration and allows you, whether you're the administrator, setting up everybody, or whether you're the end user, trying to figure out what you want to see. It's very configurable and allows you to really dig into the Salesforce system. Routing, same idea. Get from place to place, optimize your day. Again, this is probably more of a classic type sales example, or maybe we have a bunch of customers that are doing kind of walking routes, going door to door, doing door-to-door sales and capturing notes from those sales. But being able to identify the locations of those things and go on the most efficient path to go. Mobile. So you can do this type of thing over mobile. We have applications for Apple and Android devices that allow you to use the same information but in more of a mobile interface. So not having to go necessarily to the Salesforce tab and zoom in, zoom out, but we have a dedicated mobile application that's relevant to that experience. So if you're on a phone, a little teeny screen, the interface is relevant for that. With features such as a check-in, I'm here, I'm at Rackspace, and I want to let my organization know that. Not only can I just put a note in, but it'll document that I was actually here, kind of confirm that I was here off my device, let management see that, whatever the case may be. Share that on Chatter as well. It can get pretty fancy too. So there's another level of mapping, and I'll show you all this in the application. But this is an example that I ran just this morning. I was curious, and I wanted to get a picture of, this is a breakdown by zip code of the Bay Area and where Geopointe customers are, and it's comparing last year's customer revenue from this year's customer revenue, and put on a scale where green is showing where we're increasing business, and red is where we're dropping off, and yellow is basically the same. It's probably just renewals from the same customers there. But these are the kinds of pictures you can get out of the application by really just getting latitude and longitude put on. You have all these other mechanisms then to make a lot of sense of it, of this information. Just real quick about the application before I jump into the demonstration is we support all editions of Salesforce. So you could be a group edition customer, like a little mom and pop shop with 2 users or something. It's totally fine. You could be on the unlimited edition with thousands of users. We support everybody. Most license types, as long as you can configure a profile. So that could be a community user that maybe you're offering, as well as the traditional sales, marketing, service cloud. Really anybody that logs into your Salesforce system could be a Geopointe user. Licensing is flexible in terms of, could be for the whole organization, could be for a subset. You control who gets access to the application. You'll see as I demonstrate, it's really easy setup. It's very configurable to use, and we offer a free trial. So if anyone's interest is piqued at the end of this, or tomorrow or something, go to the AppExchange. You don't have to talk to a salesperson to try it out. You just go to the AppExchange, click Get It Now, run through the normal process you would any other app. We'll communicate with you automatically on what to do next. You can get started doing these things with your data in your Salesforce environment, whether it's just a developer org or actually your company's org. That could be production, could be sandbox. We make it very accessible. So you're welcome to try the application if you're interested, or even if you're just kind of getting into the Salesforce world and kind of new to it. It would be a good example of an application on AppExchange that's pretty self-service and you can get started with and maybe open your eyes to things this platform can do. I'm going to send this deck. I'll give it to David so he can send it out. So this is just our contact information. So you have it with you, but we're on the social media channels if you follow us or communicate with us that way. A number of ways to get a hold of us. One Dreamforce specific thing, this is not related to Geopointe, but it's just something we're doing. If you're going to Dreamforce, we put a little app together called DF Guide. So if you go to dfguide.com, it's just a mobile site, but we're trying to kind of collect parties that are going on, places you might want to get lunch if you don't know what's around you, or activities that are happening. We're trying to just kind of make it easier if you're attending Dreamforce. We put that little site together. It's free. It's just a public site. Encourage people to go participate, submit ideas and parties and such. We're just kind of something we're doing. It has some mapping components in it, just to kind of donate it to the community and just kind of do our part as far as the community is concerned with Dreamforce. So I may have to adjust some screens here. I'm going to go through a few scenarios, but really, I've open to questions. So just feel free to raise your hand or interrupt if you have questions as I go, or if there's certain types of things you want to see. Can it do this? Can it do that? I'll do my best to try to answer those questions. So there's really three major interfaces for Geopointe. This is the main one that most of the people come to first. Everything's delivered inside of Salesforce via the Map tab. In this particular example, or in this particular setup, now I've already gone through and I've set up the objects to be mapped. If anybody wants me to go through the administration side of the application, I'm happy to. But I'll start by not doing that. And so, I guess actually before I begin too much, I'm trying to keep it at a resolution that shows enough of my screen. Does it look okay? Can everyone read it okay? And I can go one bigger, but it'll be a little bit big. Okay, getting some thumbs up. So just as an example, one way to get started with the application is a very common way for maybe like a sales rep. I'm going to be going to an account. Maybe I'm going to be visiting Salesforce tomorrow. And I want to start off where they're located. and just clicking the map button. It's going to bring me back to that same screen that I was at, locating me at their location. Our screen's designed with this little control panel along the top, which expands, collapses, and I'll be using that to kind of get things on the map, of course. And then our lists of data that we're mapping are going to go below that. Okay, so think of this very much like you might a Salesforce report with a map as a result, as well as the list. So really, in order to get going, I need to answer two questions. What am I looking for? And then where do I want to look? In terms of what I'm looking for, we define these things called data sets. So you probably can't read those words real well in there, but basically think of them like you might a Salesforce view or a Salesforce report. They really define, on the Salesforce side of things, what data should be searched amongst. So, in its simplest form, just focusing on these first few, you might have one called all accounts. That lets you search for any account in the system that you have visibility to be put on the map. But you can, as an administrator or a user, you can predefine other subsets. So this one says accounts customers, and if I expand here, you'll notice there's a filter baked into it. Type starts with customer. So we allow the administrators, prior to rolling it out, we encourage them to set up, what are those major segments that you use in your business to identify your data. I'm using accounts here. In this example, it's customers versus partners versus prospects. In your business, it might be whatever it might be, whatever you need. And so you're able to set up those and make it easy so the user comes on day one, they have these things ready and waiting for them. I'm just going to choose all accounts. And then the right-hand side, I can say where it is I want to look. This top search here is the radial search. I'm just going to keep it at this distance, 75 miles. Click search. And now I'm performing that search 75 miles around San Francisco for accounts in the area. Okay. You'll notice that the accounts are in different pin colors here. And we have a feature we call color markers by. And it was on that screen I just was on right here. And it's basically a list of fields you have access to. And it's as simple as just picking a field. And what that'll do is drive the coloring of the pins based upon that field. So from a user standpoint, they just say, I want it by rating, or I want it by account type. And then it just gives an easy way to differentiate things on the screen, as opposed to filtering. So you can kind of work both angles of it. Filtering will show more or less pins. For the ones that do return, having some coloring will help take care of differentiation. As things are on the map, you can just hover over and see what's what. Clicking will show you more detail. I'll show you the list as well. So there's a list, corresponds with the map, of course. And you'll notice here, can I read it? You'll notice here that basic information is at the top. So it's the name of the record, the address. That's always going to come through. The distance from where I searched. We have this notion of geocode quality. So what that means is geocoding is that process of turning your addresses to latitude and longitude. And when that happens, we get latitude, longitude, and this quality indicator. And so a good value is like this one, address. That basically means it knows the right parcel of property. It knows I'm here at Rackspace. But in other cases, you might have a P.O. box, or you might have an incomplete address. It's forgiving, whereby it'll maybe have a zip level of quality, which means it'll be placed in the middle of the zip code, or the middle of the city. And one nice kind of byproduct of this process is you get a bit of an understanding of some of the quality of your own data. It's not a data cleansing solutions by any means, but it actually surfaces a lot of issues you may have with your data. You might want to make it very apparent. You might want to standardize some data. You might have some addresses that are just incorrect because they were imported from Excel with the missing zero at the front of the zip code, which is the most common problem from Excel. Those kinds of things. And on the geocoding side of things, in addition to latitude and longitude, we will give you a cleaned up address. So you'll get county, for example, as a free piece of information on any data that we actually process. You'll also get the cleaned up version of the address. It'll standardize it. So in this case, if I went to that record, I'd have zip +4. I'd have, let's say, shoreline, I guess PK for park. So you could standardize that address data for you. Down below, we have all the fields that we've configured to get returned here. So, in this case, I have rating, type, SLA, etc. Those also appear down in the table, all right? And to change those, it's just a matter of from the screen here, the little gear icon to the right. These are all the fields that we've added in automatically. To add a new one, whether I'm a user or an administrator, it's just a matter of saying add. It'll be relevant, the list here will be relevant to your visibility settings in Salesforce. And you can just pick the field you want to see. For example, I just added annual revenue, move them around. The next time I search, that field would be included. So a little bit easier than even on the report screen in Salesforce, where you have to leave the screen, go customize, then go refresh and see it. You can do all this stuff right here, and as well as filtering, which I'll get into in a little bit. Down below, you have actions that can be performed. And so there are buttons, there are links. These are configurable, customizable. We have seeded the system with some ones that we provide. So for example, we have kind of a very specific one for Geopointe called View Related Records. It's just an easy click of a button. What it's going to do is look at how your page layout configuration is set up and give the user some insight into the related data. So I'm mapping accounts here. I can see, all the sales opportunities related to that account, the cases. If anyone's an administrator here in the room, it doesn't require any configuration to do this. You've pretty much done it already by configuring your page layout, so everything's just driven off of that. If you have custom lists, maybe you have custom orders related to an account that just appears. It's using all the metadata from Salesforce. Down below here you have links and buttons. And so we have some simple ones. I want to log a call. You can bring up a little window and get to log your call just like any other activity. You can customize your own. So, sorry about the movement. These things that you put in here, we call them actions. They can be as simple as a URL. So for example, I have one for a Twitter search. It'll just kind of merge in the account name and I can go search Twitter for that account name. They're not necessarily too fancy, but you can craft URLs. In other cases, you could do it to other places in Salesforce, like that log a call link I just did. It's actually pulling up a little window inside the page just to a link in Salesforce. You can also tie it into your own Apex development. If we have any developers in the room or anyone that works for an organization that does that, you can actually process the data on the map in Apex code. So we have a framework allowing Apex developers to just create their code in a certain way. And the buttons can tie into that with just kind of a request-response sort of framework. And that can be done at the record level here. So imagine just being able to say, add this item to my proposal kind of thing. Or at the list level, where at the list level we have some built-in actions that I'll go through a couple, but you could build your own. Maybe you want to say process all of these orders in the area and send them off to some other service. Okay, but we basically built the framework that allows you to make that connection happen. So your mapping can be really within a business process, not necessarily just the end result of somebody wanting to report against the data. One of the more common things to do at this point is routing. So in this example, I was a salesperson, or I am a salesperson. I'm in San Francisco. I want to visit some of these other accounts nearby. Every one of these little buttons here, or pins here, has an add to route button. And so that's just going to allow me to add, one by one, items to the screen, or to a route list, sorry. This tab over here on my control panel is the route list. And I've basically just been building up a list of places. So the general premise is that you're searching, you find a bunch of stuff. There's only certain things you care about. You're making your calls, you're making appointments, what have you. And you're picking and choosing the places that you want to go, right? And you can add multiple places to your list. Let's just go with those. We can also search outside the Salesforce system. So let's just say I wanted to search for a specific address. I could do that here, or a place. So we tapped into an external database of places. So for a good example being, say the Oakland Airport, why don't I include that? This taps into a database from Navtech that has a bunch of places. It's really good for airports, hotels, restaurants, etc. And you can add that in as if it's Salesforce data, and just add that into your route as well. So here I have this route here of all these places I want to go, starting at Salesforce, ending at Oakland Airport. To get the directions and talk to Google about it, you just click the orange button, says Get Route. It'll actually get through those directions, and you get them back on the screen here. So let me remove a couple things. All right, so you can see I have the route on the screen here. Now, it's not the most efficient route in the world. I'm driving down to pretty much San Jose and back up to the city and then across the bridge. There are options for optimization. So you could do the route the way you want, or in any sequence you want. But in the options here, among things like driving versus walking versus public transportation, we have this one called optimize. And what this means when I hit it is it's telling Google, I want to start at the first point, Salesforce. I want to end at the airport. But everything else can be resequenced by Google. They can tell me the most efficient way to go. And so by doing that, hopefully we can see the route being kind of fixed, where I'm starting off in the city, working my way down, and then coming around, and finally able to end at the airport. So hopefully you get the idea. And basically all this is made possible by really just getting location enabled with the Salesforce data. And obviously a lot of other work too, but that's kind of really the key to it. So from here, we have some different options where you can save. So let's just call this my, probably spelled analytics, someone misspell it, meetup route. You can save it in the system, pull that back up at a later time, print it via PDF. If you want to, you could bounce out to MapQuest or Google and work on the route there. It'll just send the information across so you don't have to retype it. But really, by saving it, you're able to access it via our mobile apps. I wanted to be able to show my mobile app through here, but I was having trouble getting my iPhone to connect to my computer to show it. But basically, the mobile app will let you do similar things to what I just showed you. Locate you, pull through those, we call them data sets, right? So if you have one saying, my contacts with new opportunities, or just, my contacts closing the next 30 days at opportunities. You can have those things predefined. So when it comes down to searching, you don't have to search amongst all the noise. You're just searching amongst what matters. Get your results as if you say search for coffee, right? It's your Salesforce data as the pins instead. You can go in, you'll be able to see all the fields you configured. They all pull through into here. Build up your routes. We integrate with the navigation apps on the device. So if you're on an iPhone, say, and you want to go to a place, it'll send you over to the Apple navigation app, or if you have Google installed, it can use that, or Waze if you have that installed. On Android, very similar process. As well as a check-in process. So a lot of our customers use this as kind of an easy means of logging activities. So Salesforce is kind of in a weird state in terms of their mobile apps these days. There's probably like 4 different things you can use to log activities. Here's a 5th. You can use our app. You have your route saved. You pull it up in our mobile app, and you say check in here. And you put a note in and check in. So that's it from a user standpoint. But what that'll do is it'll document, where they were standing, when it happened, who did it, what's connected to, all that who, what, where, when, why information about that situation. Document that in Salesforce. From a user standpoint, you can chatter it if you want to collaborate that way, if you're using chatter. On the administration side, you can have it log as activities. So a lot of our customers find that as an easy way, especially for sales reps that have trouble enough oftentimes logging activities. It's kind of an easy way. They're in this app already, managing their route. It's a good mechanism for doing that. And it just aligns with how it works in Salesforce in general. So we're not trying to reinvent anything. It just flows into where it would as if you were in a Salesforce mobile app too. And this is just, you can log in if you're using single sign-on with Salesforce, if you're a large enterprise that is signing in that way, or if you're trying this in your sandbox environment or production, mobile will work for you as well. Can I do a quick time check? It's 7:10. Do I have till 7:30? I don't want to overstay. Okay. So one of the other things I want to show is how this application might just be used for more general reporting. Okay. So the thing I did was just who's within a mile. I want to build a route, but maybe I'm more of a marketer and I want to fill up a campaign with people. So we have different ways you can do the searching. So maybe I just want to come over here to the New York, Boston area, and instead of searching a specific area, like a mileage distance around something, I don't know the mileage distance in this area, I just want to search anywhere that's on my map. And maybe I want to just look for customers. So we have a viewable area option. Same idea, still get pins as a result, but where it's searching is a little bit different. It's just searching the rectangle that's there as the map. Maybe we want to add some more data, but not lose my customer data. I'm just picking another one. Let's look at for prospects is what that says. If I turn off there's a feature to clear off the existing pins. By default, it'll refresh your map each time, but you can have it append, which is what I just did. And so you can see it's added a few as well. So then down below, I have my unique lists, one for customers, one for prospects. Each one's independently configured, can have their own fields and everything. You can get a little bit more granular in terms of location. So maybe I want to look for leads. And maybe I want to add an ad hoc filter here. So I've only been working off stuff that I've saved in advance, but maybe as a user, my admin didn't create what I wanted, so I can expose the filter area and just walk through the wizard. So we try to make it as easy as possible. Obviously, filtering can be a complex task, but we try to make it as easy as possible for a user to go through the process and maybe saying, I want to look for just hot rated leads. Go through the wizard, add that in. Now I'm going to do what's called a shape search. So this is just another way of searching. I'm going to click shape search, and it gives me the opportunity to draw a little shape here on the map. And so this is going to define the very, very specific boundaries by which I want to search for this information by. And once you have it on the screen, you can move it around and do all kinds of stuff with it. You can save these, so if you have, just for your personal use, you could save them, come back to them. That's what this list in the middle here is. We have some companies that have very defined zones that they just use internally to communicate. So their admin went in, drew them up, saved them, and then went and shared them with everybody. So everybody has those in their list that they can search amongst. Depends on how you might do business, but they are there, kind of for personal use by default. And then I'm going to do the search for leads. And so it's the same idea. It's just limiting it to that specific area. I guess I only found one. Or no, there's 5 down in there. Okay. So that's just another example of how you might search and do some ad hoc filtering. Now, I mentioned adding to a campaign. So we have an add to campaign integration. So this is the type of thing you could build with those actions I described, but we just happen to build this one already. What this is doing is it's trying to get people into a campaign. So campaigns in Salesforce require leads, contacts to be a part of them because you're marketing to individuals. I have accounts and leads on the map. So what the system's doing is it's recognizing that I have more than just leads and contacts. I have accounts on here. So it's looking at all the ways that accounts are related to leads or contacts and giving me those as options. Had I had, say, opportunities on the screen, it would let me, load just the contacts from certain contact roles. If I was mapping, say, maybe like sales orders, I could add just the billing contacts. It's looking at all the ways that the stuff I've mapped can finally get people into the campaign that I'm trying to create. So I'm just going to choose the contacts related to the accounts and choose a campaign. Choose this one I already created for today. It'll show me the statuses from the campaign. There's 18 people. I can go ahead and create the members. So I'm basically just tying the mapping into the marketing side of Salesforce. So if I were to go look at that campaign, you should see these are the 18 people that got added in here. So from here I go about my own marketing business and do my thing. Right? Every campaign has a set of statuses you might be tracking. From a marketing standpoint, maybe you're wanting to load your campaign, but also analyze your campaign after the fact. So maybe you would come to the map screen. I cheated a little bit, and I have another campaign I'm going to report against. But I have this one here, where I added a bunch of people to the campaign, but time has gone on. I've managed the statuses. People have said, yes, I'm coming to the event. No, I'm not. And so on. So I'm just going to say entire data set here. I'm just going to get a map of all the people that are a part of this campaign, and I'm going to it's colored automatically by the status that I have. So I can see who I invited, who I accepted, who I declined. From a marketing standpoint, this is pretty powerful. I might not realize that, yes, we're holding an event maybe in New York and someone's coming all the way from Boston. Maybe I should have some special messaging for that person, or at least help on how to get to where they need to go, or make them feel more comfortable as they arrive in the area, what have you. So just like a Salesforce report, but you get the benefit of location associated with it. Any questions so far? More to show, but any questions? Am I speaking too quickly?
How much is it?
Excuse me?
How much it costs?
I'll get to that at the end.
This
Very
is the
affordable.
end. This is the end.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I deal with a lot of internet companies, and nobody ever has address information in Salesforce because they never mail anything. Do you have what do you suggest for that, like populating that data?
Get an address. No. We only do geocoding off the address. So that's pretty much our answer now. We were looking into things like IP address type of it's not, I don't know if it's called geocoding, but essentially
Does
matching
data.com
with location, but that's not super precise.
Does data.com provide the?
Yeah, I mean,
maps you
tools,
wanted to?
things like data.com or D&B or some of the other ones would allow you to append to your data, which would probably be Salesforce's answer.
So you got to append it and then use it.
Right, yeah. So once it's in the database, it's workable. So however you get it there, we're reading straight from Salesforce. So that's an important thing. This is a native Salesforce application, which basically means you're not relying on a data center of Geopoints. It's just looking directly at your Salesforce environment. The first half an hour of getting set up in the Geopointe setup screen, that's you pointing to the Salesforce configuration and where your data resides, just like you would a Salesforce report. And we look there, dynamically. So as you're adding fields and things, it's all kind of just automatically updated. So there's no real syncing going on, at least in what I've shown you so far. Next thing there is. But.
Does each customer have to get their own Google Maps API key?
Another good question I should have answered earlier. No. So we've licensed with Google and MapQuest, and the next Spatial Key is the next company I'm about to show. We've licensed some technology from. So we've taken care of all that. So for our side, it's a per user thing. I'll just answer the pricing question. And what I've shown so far, we integrate with Google and MapQuest, so you can actually choose either or. Google's probably it's probably a 70-30 split with Google leading. Google starts at $15 a month per user, 1.5, and then MapQuest is at $12. Google has a few extra features like Street View, which I didn't show, but you're probably familiar with. And the shape search is there. It has some actually demographics features, which I didn't really get into yet, but actually are pretty cool, so I will. And being able to layer on external KML files are called. So if you have external data, if you're familiar with the KML format, which is kind of a Google Earth sort of format, you can point to those and layer them on to the maps here, as well as what I'm about to show, which is Google provides some demographics data. So for example, this is a quick little overlay of household income within these different areas where this customer resides. And so Google gives us that information because we have a license. To answer your first question, no, there's no extra cost. We took care of that. Okay. And the mobile, there's no extra cost for mobile. Mobile's all part of it. Everything I've shown you so far is part of that pricing I just mentioned. And it could go to any number of users. So if you had 100 Salesforce users and you had 5 people need this, that's okay. 1 person needs it, that's okay. 100 people, that's okay too. It's very flexible. And once you have a license, you allocate who those go to. So to us, it's just a number. There may be 20 users, and then you have a screen in Salesforce. You turn people on or turn people off as you need to. Now the next thing I'm about to show is what we call Geo Analytics. And this is done through an integration with a partner of ours, Spatial Key is their name. And so they have a very high-end, robust mapping platform. They cater to large enterprises doing pretty sophisticated mapping, and we partnered with them to bring their technology, their kind of main reporting interface, into Geopointe. So integrated with Geopointe and bring it to Salesforce users. So the smallest of companies that uses Salesforce has access to this enterprise-level technology as well as big enterprises do. And so what Geopointe does is manage a kind of a sister subscription for you over at spatialkey.com. Probably can't see it, but at the URL here, we're at salesforce.spatialkey.com. That screen I was just at is the mechanism by which you can send your data over to Spatial Key. So you have an org, just like you have a Salesforce org, you get a Spatial Key one. Geopointe manages that, helps you manage, manages the user for you, the authentication, all that stuff. And users can just tick off the list, click a button, and it runs a little job. Think of it like exporting a spreadsheet, importing it over to the other side, but it just does it for you. And we're happy to answer any detailed questions about that process if you have them. But what you get out of it once you're in here is the ability to look at data in a much different way, and also a lot more data. So you could load millions of records into here and get this type of effect. This is just like 7,300 of them, sales opportunities. But you also just get a different spin on mapping. Instead of just being points on the map, you're kind of aggregating it and analyzing it. So what you see here is you see the heat map. On the left-hand side, I clicked opportunities, and it's just showing it by default in a heat map, which is this first icon here, by record count. And I can change here the way things look, and I'll kind of do that as I go. At the top here, you can work with their visualizations. So this is an analytics tool. Some of these things are very just pure reporting type of things, like a metric. So, we sent some number fields over as record counts here. I can get a statistic on the screen just to show how many records there are. Add another one to this little window and show the total dollar amount between here. So any number you send from Salesforce, you'll have the option for the sum of them, the average, the min, the max. But maybe I want to have those on the screen. And they come in these little windows. You can move around. You can configure what they look like. But you're also going to see everything's going to auto-recalculate as we're filtering things down, and all the other things I added are going to kind of be playing off of each other. I won't go through every single one, but the most popular one is the unique value list, especially for the Salesforce world. So there's pick list fields in Salesforce. You want to categorize things, you want to filter things. This is a great way to think of it like, at first you're just seeing like a summary report in Salesforce. I have the stage field off my opportunities, and I want to add that to the screen. So much like a summary report in Salesforce, I see it grouped by stage, have the record count. Again, I could choose another column. I'm just doing another stat column here, like the total dollar amount, and I can see the breakdown, just like in a Salesforce report, of these different values. But what's really cool is I can use it to filter as well. So maybe I only care about what's open. I'm going to tick a couple of these guys off, and you'll notice everything's kind of is. Just keep the grid size down here. Make it look a little bit better. Zoom in one. Everything is redrawing based upon that filter. So we're down to 1,600 opportunities. I don't know if you remember, but it was like 7,200 before. And we've used that little thing as a filter here as well. One of the other more compelling ones is the timeline. So if you're sending updates, this is opportunity history. It actually works really well for that, or maybe it's order history, revenue history, something like that. For the 1,600 records that are left, this is the breakdown by close date. And so you can get a nice visual as a timeline. You can also use this to filter. And so maybe I just want to look at 2013 data. Filter that down. You can see the map is re-rendering. The other counts are changing. Everything's playing off of each other. You don't have to use these visualizations. They do have the traditional number greater than this, or this equals that, kind of filtering like a normal Salesforce report. But the visualizations make it much easier to work with. Get the benefit of the little graph itself, plus the ability to drill into it. You don't have to keep them on the screen. You can minimize them if you want. So I've basically just gone through a process of saying, where are our opportunities that are open closing this year? You can see where things break down. I can see the numbers, so LA and Dallas are the hot spots in terms of where our opportunities are. But maybe I want to change about the value of these opportunities. I want things to be driven off of that. So I change it based on the dollar amount. I can see Chicago and Charlotte have lit up as areas of value. Not necessarily as many opportunities, but areas of value. And as you drill in, it'll redraw things based upon where you are going. And if you, just going to flip on a filter that'll recalculate this stuff based upon where I'm zoomed to. So in Chicago, we're down to 27 opportunities. I can see the dollar amount, kind of see where the distribution is. Now might be a time where I want to look at different views of the data. So you can look at things, I've been doing the heat map most of the time, but you can look at things in the sort of graduated circle clusters. Probably second most popular to the heat map is thematic mapping. So the system's going to come with shapes for US boundaries, and you can upload other ones. So in this example, it's going to break it down by zip code, kind of like that screenshot I showed in the slide at the very beginning. Or I can break it down by zip code, county, or state for the US. Those are the defaults. But you can upload other ones. So for example, I uploaded the Nielsen DMAs, they're called, or the congressional districts a lot of our nonprofit customers will use. So they could see maybe donations by congressional district or legislative district, that sort of thing. There's a lot to show in here, but hopefully you get the idea. The idea is you have all this data. In Salesforce, we know where it is, and there's just different mechanisms for being able to report against it. The last thing I just want to leave you with is that, I'm short on time here, is just that kind of that revenue comparison thing. So that screenshot I showed that I showed in the beginning, showing the Bay Area broken down with the green versus red, upwards, downwards trending, took about between 5 and 10 minutes to set up once the data was over here. And really you can end up coming with you can save reports. And so, I saved this one as a report, so I can come back to this at any point And I could change, you know, the breakdown of the dates that I want to use here, or change the areas by which I want to view it, or drill into different areas and see things relevant to that. So you don't have to go through that exercise every single time to build up what you want to see. Do it once, save it as a report, come back to it, tweak it, what have you. This is an extra license cost on the subject of cost. The entry point is an extra $10 a month for a user that wants to use it. You're getting functionality that's, you know, well over $100 a month by default if you were to talk to them directly. And it goes up from there though. So we have different pricing tiers based on data volume. That $10 a month will let you send over a batch of 5,000 records. You can send over 10 of them. You have a 50,000 record limit, 100,000, and so on. So depending on how much data you need, we basically started with their spatial keys pricing, brought the price down by setting some data caps on it. And we can work with you if you have some customer, you have lots and lots of data. And this can be applied to any subset of Geopointe users. So maybe you have 20 Geopointe users out of your 100 Salesforce users. 3 people of those 20 need this, you can license that. So you only have to pay for what people need, you don't have to drag everybody along and buy licenses for everybody if they're not going to use it. Okay. I think my time is done.
Thanks,
So
Scott.
thank you. I guess any questions?